Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I wanted to share some of my thoughts on kind of like the state of Predecessor and where the game's at. We're, I think, 6.5 months or so into early access since the release on December 1st, or the release of early access on December 1st. And I kind of want to just catch everybody up with my thoughts on the game, what the game's been doing, and overall just synopsis of how I feel about everything. So go on ahead and do me a favor, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the Krashy channel here for future Predecessor content, because I am going to be posting a little bit more videos if I can. I'm trying to get a little bit more consistent, but I'm getting a little bit out of ideas, and I guess that's where I'll go on ahead and start. Predecessor is kind of like greatly lacking in content, and that is like the issue, but I'm reluctant to say that because I've talked about this on streams and whatnot. I want to be very clear with my kind of position with Predecessor. The game is moving along, right? Like, it's moving along, it's early access, it's very much so in development, and so I'm not existentially worried about the future of the game, but I am, to be completely honest, I'm pretty bored. I'm pretty bored of playing the game. We only have a limited hero pool, so the rate at which heroes come out isn't necessarily a problem to me, but it's like the rate of which heroes come out paired with the speed of development it all feels a little slow and lacking, right? So everything from patch to patch that comes as quality of life updates or balance fixes or changes, they're all good. And actually, we have a patch coming out tomorrow that's going to release Morgesh, so I'm excited about a new hero. Although I'm not much of a mid player, I'll probably play her a little bit. And again, big shout outs to Omega Studios for involving her in the pack, like the bundle. Like, they included her in the bundle for free, essentially, because we've already cashed in on our 25 heroes, but they're giving Morgesh with us with the bundles for free, essentially. So they're giving us an entire hero for free. So big shout outs to that. So I'm excited to play Morgesh, and I'm really looking forward to some of like the anti-snowballing, anti-global gold experience changes that they're making, and even the changes to the crest. So this upcoming patch that's coming out tomorrow, I'm actually really excited about. But from like a systemic standpoint, not a whole lot on the game is changing, right? There's not really like new ways to engage in the game outside of playing Morgesh, and ultimately it's kind of like the same loop, which I am kind of getting bored and a little bit burnt out on. So that's definitely kind of where I'm at right now. Like I said, it's the speed of development is going a little bit slower than I was expecting, and that's okay. It's just the things that I need and the things that I want to play and interact with the game for my own personal retention are just not really there. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more kind of thoughts and sentiments from Omega in terms of progression, hero mastery, something at minimum to grind for, the release of the free-to-play currency, assuming that that's the monetization model that they're going to go for, which I'm 99% sure it is. Anything that you can kind of look at and say, okay, that is the reason why I'm playing and grinding for. Ranked mode obviously is going to be a good one, although I'm a little reluctant with the ranked mode because they've already announced a solo duo ranked mode that's going to have draft, but it essentially has to come out with like a limited time kind of playtest window. It's essentially like competitive nights but solo duo, because if you launch it and it's just on all the time, then it's going to split the queues, and we're still in paid early access, which means we don't have like the biggest player base in the world, so it just wouldn't really work all that well to try to do it in that way. So they're probably going to lock down the ranked mode to like a certain play time, which I think is totally fine. I think that's totally acceptable, but that being said, it's not something that's going to retain me full-time 7 days a week, because I'm not going to be able to play it full-time 7 days a week. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of progression. That's what I want. I want more things to unlock, more cosmetics and profile banners, and more content in the shop. I just want a lot more content out of the game in order to retain it. So let's talk about gameplay though. How is the gameplay doing? Progressing all these months, just about half a year. We are half a year, right? Like, it's been half a year. Yeah, it's been 6 months of early access because it did start in December 1st. So all of the gameplay changes and things that have happened, we've had some stinker updates, I'm not going to lie, changes to the carry items and, kind of like a really bloated carry meta for a while. But ultimately, I think the gameplay is doing very well. Ever since there was some big changes to like Primal Fangtooth and, really big balance changes, and them now working down that pipeline of changes for TTK changes, all of this is really good. Like, I've been pretty excited and pretty pretty confident that they've been going in the right direction consistently. Even now, going towards this patch tomorrow, that's going to change the crest. I think that changing the crest and pulling a lot of stats and sustain out of the crest is going to lead more and more to feeling like the game is a little bit more balanced early on, which is going to lead to less snowballing in the mid to late game. So really looking forward to that. I do think that there could be an unintended side effect where games go a little bit longer, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, one thing that I would like to see personally, and this is going to lead me into a couple of talking points, is I would like to see the surrender vote be pushed back. I really feel like we have a culture of giving up and mentally checking out that's starting to develop in the community, and that feels like it's just strictly, it's a simple thing. If you have the surrender vote early on, like if it's accessible at like the 10-minute mark, then the people who are getting frustrated or maybe not having a good game, they're going to lean into that, right? But if the surrender vote's not there at all, like you physically can't surrender yet, then that frustration, it may still be there. And so I'm not saying that they're not going to feel frustrated, but they can't immediately jump to trying to give up and walk away from the game and not try. So I do think that like having the surrender vote less accessible slightly, right? Just slightly, 10-minute change, 15 minutes into the game or 20 minutes into the game, it extends the game to feeling more like people are going to try, and we can build a culture of people trying as opposed to having a culture of people quitting. And I do think that that's really important. And speaking of people quitting, probably one of my biggest issues with the game right now is AFKs. Now, to anybody from Ometa that's listening to this, I think that this is a really important topic. I've actually posted some feedback in the creator Discord about this. I think that getting ahead of the AFK issue is absolutely important, and it's one of the few things that I would say that I think that Ometa is kind of failing at personally. Now, here's like some anecdotes, right? So take it how you will. I want to say realistically, probably every 6 to 8 games, not every other game, not every few games, and I'm building an average here, but on average, not kidding, I think every 6 to 8 games, I have someone full quit AFK the game. And that's the enemy team, it's my team, whatever it is. Now, here's the thing. These punishments, whatever they are, however it's being handled, they're not enough. It's not enough. I'm seeing AFKs happen way too often. I'm talking to other people in the community who get AFKs. I'm watching streams where people AFK. I'm looking at matches on, Ometa City and seeing AFKs. And ultimately, I think that what's happening, I'm going to use a word that I used earlier, is that we are starting to see a culture of quitting and giving up and mentally checking out happening more and more. And so I'm going to give my thoughts on how you handle AFKs, and then I would love to get some comments in the comment section down below to either agree with me, disagree with me, share your thoughts and opinions. That would be greatly appreciated. So here's what I think. I think that you have to, in order to get a hold of this issue, you have to absolutely get in front of it and be harsh with it. So here's what you do. You want to give a little bit of room for issues to happen, power outages, internet outages, things of that nature. So you want to meet the first maybe 2 or 3 AFKs or full disconnects with a little bit of sympathy, right? You give them a slap on the wrist, you give them a warning, maybe you give them a 30-minute timeout. Hey, you AFK'd a match, 30-minute timeout, and then you start to build that up, right? So come like the 3rd AFK or so, you're going to start hitting them with like an hour timeout. And maybe you do that a couple times. It doesn't really matter. I could come up with a concrete answer for this, but I don't really need to right away. But or like a concrete design for the AFK punishments. But if someone AFKs on like their 3rd or 4th time, it needs to be like an hour or more. And then you start stacking it. 4th AFK or 5th AFK, 2 hours. The next one, 5 hours. The next one, 10 hours. The next one, 24 hours. The next one, 3 days. The next one, 7 days. 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, 1 year, right? If you can build a pattern, if you can identify a pattern of someone consistently quitting out, even if it's issues or not, if it's consistently happening, then what you want to do is start making that an unviable strategy. And what I mean by unviable strategy, it means like if you are trying to get out of a game because you're unhappy with the circumstances, well, then the game is going to get you out of the game. Does that make sense? Like you're not just getting out of one game, we are now removing you from many, many games that you would otherwise be playing. playing. Now, here's the thing with this decision. This decision is a very negative and kind of scary thing in the short term, because you could potentially be removing players from actually playing the game. In the long term, what it does is, it, again, important word here, it builds a culture of people literally not feeling like AFKing is a viable strategy, or simply fearing AFKing. If AFKing leads, and people know that it leads to long-term like issues, like you're going to get timed out for an hour or 3 hours or a day or 3 days, then the truly bad actors, the people who are so enraged when they're playing the game and they can't help themselves but quit, those people will naturally be dealt with. But what it does is that it has an intended effect of perturbing and dissuading people who otherwise might just be on that edge, right, where they're really having a rough day or they really had a bad experience. It would perturb them from potentially taking that action, where if it was open, then they might know that they could get away with it. So I really think that it's important to be very harsh on AFKs and to not allow a culture of that to happen. I would rather the entire community say, hey, dude, AFKing in this game doesn't work, you get screwed really hard, than to allow it to happen. Now, from a rank perspective, I think you do the same thing, right? You keep those stacking bans, but you actually hit it even harder. If people are AFKing in ranked, you start pulling their rank from them. So let's say, hypothetically, nobody knows anything about what the rank system looks like. Let's say a player is in Platinum 1, and that's the bottom of Plat. Well, if they AFK, take an entire division from them, right? Put them back into Gold 5 or whatever. If someone's, you know what I mean? Let's say it's an ELO ranking system where, you know, you have points. If someone's 1200 master points or 1200 ELO or 1200, you know, radiant or whatever the hell you want to call it, and they AFK a game, boom, minus 300 points, minus 200 points. Like, make it unviable, where the time that you spent AFKing could have been a formidable loss, right? You know, maybe minus 20 points or something. But instead, you quit the game, you ruin that game, we're going to slap you with like 10 losses worth of points. And it will literally kill the culture, and it will kill the potential for AFKing and quitting out of matches to even be something that someone considers doing, unless they are literally so enraged that they have to, right? And by that point, who cares, right? If you accidentally I say accidentally, but it's not accidentally. If you run off bad actors and people that are quitting out of matches and ruining the game for others, good, right? Like, good, that's a good thing. I don't care. I don't care about people that are ruining the matches for me and 8 other people, right? Like, that's no fun. So that's my biggest point of criticism I think I have for Predecessor right now, is like making sure that they're staying on top of actually getting rid of some of these issues. I do think that I could talk a little bit about the matchmaking, but I can't go too deep on it. If I'm being completely honest, the matchmaking feels really, really bad lately, but it's simply like an early access, you know, new game kind of growing pains of the game. I can't really expect for there to be really great matchmaking, because there's just not a lot of players to tone it around. I do think that it could be better, though. Like, I've looked at some of my matches, and it definitely feels like it's still just way too loose. Like, I think that there should be some like high MMR like changes to matchmaking. If you're a high MMR player, someone that's like in the top X%, blah, 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 whatever internal MMR number, then maybe the system could search a little bit longer before just throwing us into a game, because I've had plenty of games where there's definitely major skill variance, and that doesn't feel great. But again, I don't want to harp about that too much, because it definitely feels like a growing pain of the game, and I do think that over time that's going to improve. So all in all, my roundup thoughts on Predecessor is that the game is progressing well. I do think that, you know, month over month, patch over patch, most of the changes that we get are very good. I do have some expectations to see some movement on the AFK front, and I definitely want to hear more about that from the developers, to say, hey, you know, we're seeing an increase, or AFKing is actually going down. Like, communicate with us, right? If you're seeing the numbers where AFKs are going down, tell us. Cool. If you're seeing an increase, then start making some changes, and let's build the culture of people that actually want to play and get rid of the people that don't. So those are my thoughts. I think that, like I said, none of my issues that I have with the game feel existential. I'm not worried about the future of this game. I think that everything is progressing very well. I have no idea what the target launch date, target free-to-play date, target console date is, but I do think that we are inching our way there, very slow and very steady, which for me is not the best thing, because I definitely, like I said, I'm feeling pretty burnt out. I'm feeling pretty bored playing the game. I have not been playing anywhere close to the amount of time I was whenever I was kind of first getting into it and learning and grinding, but I love the game, and I'm looking forward to the future. So drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for future Predecessor content. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, be sure to be kind of tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.